Path into geology was kind of bizarre and probably very different from a lot of other faculty because my dad's actually a geologist. And so when I was a little kid, he used to drag me out to the outcrop on field trips and took me to field camp where he taught a week every year from Missouri's field camp. And then somewhere along the way I got interested in art, which was kind of a problematic for my dad. He was bothered that I wasn't in science, but I wasn't actually allowed to work on geology, so that was problematic as well. When I was in high school, I rebelled for a while and went into art and started making pots and painting and doing ceramics. And at some point, I decided in undergraduate that probably wasn't the best career move, and I was still really interested in doing science. And so, much like many geology people, I took an introductory class in geology and was completely hooked. I started doing a lot of geochemistry and started looking for graduate school opportunities. And when I found out about an opportunity to go and do research in Ireland, I was totally hooked. And so I went to work with William Patterson, who is at the University of Syracuse. We're going to go to Ireland for 3 years and do a lot of work for my master's project. But somewhere along the way, after turning down all my other graduate school opportunities, Dr. Patterson told me that he was moving to Saskatchewan. So I had to get out an atlas and figure out where Saskatchewan was, actually more specifically Saskatoon. I wanted to get a little bit more information from these lakes that we were looking at. So I got really interested in looking at biomarkers for different vegetation. And so I decided to do my PhD at Penn State working on molecular biomarkers with Kate Freeman. And so that's kind of led me to where I am today at the University of Cincinnati. To learn a new system, you kind of have to change what your research direction is to learn from other people. And so I kind of just went on the ride and started working on different time scales, and we actually really found out that you can learn a lot about studying deeper time to get a bigger understanding for what's going on today, because you have to kind of step back and think about the bigger time scales and the bigger picture before you can really understand what's going on at the smaller scale. So I'm kind of doing a lot of work still in the Paleocene and Eocene, expanding in the Cretaceous, and now I'm starting to work with several members of our department here working on the Quaternary and more recent climate change questions. One of the amazing things about graduate school is you get to travel. And so for me, the first time that I actually left, since the first time I left North America was during graduate school. And so I got to go to Ireland 3 different times, which was a lot of fun. We spent a couple of times there. We were there for a few months, and that was an amazing experience, getting to hang out with local researchers in Ireland, getting to discuss things at local watering holes, and just having a really good time learning about that culture and getting to do research at the same time. That was fascinating. My art background has had a major influence on the way I think as a scientist. Probably also pushed me into the sciences, because I think a lot of us know that science is much like an art. It's very hands-on and very abstract, and we have to think about science from a bigger perspective, and I think art has helped me do that. I think your attention to detail comes a lot from having a good art background, being able to think as a global thinker, and most geologists are very visual, so it's very common for geologists to also have art interests or music interests. So I think that's helped a lot. One of the next directions that we're really heading on in my research group is really trying to connect the biomarkers that we find in things like trees or other organisms to what's actually in the sediments. And so we're really trying to relate what's produced up here to what we find down here, and trying to make the connections about what's controlling those compounds in actual sediments. So looking at biomarker taphonomy, I think is the next major direction that we're moving in. Very much interested in doing paleoclimate reconstruction, looking at hydrology, using some of the plant leaf waxes that we've been measuring a lot on these modern samples, and try to get an idea about how we can learn from leaf waxes, what we can learn from leaf waxes preserved in lake sediments to reconstruct ancient hydrologic patterns and sources of moisture through time, especially looking at the Quaternary. So what we have here is an accelerated solvent extractor that allows us to put whatever sample we're looking at, whether it's a leaf wax or plant leaf or ground up lake sediment or rock. We can grind it up, we can put it in these cells, and then we can put it on this machine that uses lovely solvents to extract the organic matter out of these rocks. All right, so this is a gas chromatograph, mass spectrometer, and this is what we use to actually characterize the organic matter that we're interested in. You can use this mass spectrometer over here to identify what the compounds are based on their mass and how they fragment in the ion source. And specific compounds have very unique fragmentation patterns that allow us to identify the organic matter that's present.